Hi again, it's Jason at Fraser Valley Rose Farm, and I hope you'll indulge me a quick break from the gardening videos to talk about the results that I've had posting my videos on other platforms besides YouTube. And I'm going to structure this video to give you the results first. I'll have a discussion afterwards about various points about the other platforms that I tried out, but I want to jump right into the results here, which is that at present, with the sites that I evaluated, which were the three most likely I could find as alternatives for YouTube, none of them is currently viable as an alternative. Now that said, that's a pretty stark conclusion that nobody else competes with YouTube. You can't go anywhere else. But that's not exactly what I'm trying to say here. I tried these other video platforms and found interesting things, and I think that with a few modifications, a couple of them anyway, could end up being good alternatives, or at least a supplemental way for you to post your videos. In fact, the first two on the list, I'm going to say Odysee and Rumble, would take very little effort to post your entire video library onto those platforms. No additional maintenance. You may get some additional views from it. And if those platforms make the changes that they need to make right now, they could actually be viable alternatives in the future. All right, let me talk about those individual platforms now. It appears I'm getting ahead of myself though. The first question I think I need to answer is, why would I even be looking for an alternative to YouTube? YouTube has actually been pretty good to me. I've posted my videos, they've had some success, viewers have found them, and you could even say that I'm making a modest living posting my videos on YouTube. The answer to that comes down to, and I think it's the same answer whether you're a video creator or whether you're a viewer, how much do you trust a big company to represent your best interests without any kind of representation? And YouTube has made some controversial moves recently that make me question their commitment to me as a long-form informational creator. It seems that they have a certain bent towards going to short-form entertainment content rather than to long-form informational. One of those moves is their introduction of YouTube Shorts and their emphasis on this. If you look at any of their main channels, if you look at any of their updates, if you look at the Twitter account, it's the only thing that they're promoting right now. They are desperate to get the market that TikTok has right now, and they're not thinking about information creators. Long form like me, horizontal format creators who put a lot of information content into the videos are falling by the wayside, it seems to me. Okay, so that's a strategic choice on their part. They're free to do that as a company, but what's my other alternative? Likewise, recently they made the controversial move of removing the likes, dislikes counter on videos, that thing that you could look at very quickly on content like mine and decide whether it's good quality content or poor quality content. By hiding that from the viewers, what they've done is they've made it harder for an information creator like me to stand out. I didn't agree with that. It looks like it didn't come out with any level of community consultation. So the point of this is, and I guess this is the bottom line you should think about, is that they are a company representing their own interests rather than that of the community. And that should have been clear right from the start. But when the only way you have to hold them account is the free market, the question is, if there's no other alternatives, if there's no other platforms that compete with them, then there is no accountability. That's why I'm looking. What I looked at was three different other platforms that are much, much smaller than YouTube. And what I assessed them on was basically their format, how I felt that long-form creators would fit into that, also their viewership and engagement, and finally their monetization or their monetization policies, just to see if you could make a living at this if you eventually switched over. The first one I looked at was Odysee, and Odysee is kind of an interesting YouTube alternative. It seems to be, and I'm going to put my own spin on the flavors of these things, is that I see a lot of science and crypto and kind of geeky content on this channel. It's very technical stuff, things like Brett Weinstein with the evolutionary lens that he applies to things, sort of the intellectual dark web kind of end of things. So it has that kind of geeky edge to it, and the long form commitment level of it appears to be really good. One thing that they've done that's different than YouTube is that the main portion of your search and discovery on the channel, the top section, is dedicated to your subscriptions, things that you've already said that you like, and that's what they surface first for you. YouTube has kind of gone away from that. They've gone to making most of their recommendations based on their algorithm. So most of their search and discovery is based on what they would like you to see next, not what you have self-opted what you'd like to see. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and it actually shows in the numbers a little bit. When you compare Odysee over to, say, Rumble, which is the next one I'm going to discuss in just a second here, Odysee has much, much longer watch time. I have to say that it is the best of the three that I've looked at so far for in terms of viewership and viewer engagement. When I post a new video on YouTube in my small channel, and just for those who don't know me, I have about 140,000 subscribers, something like that. Typically on YouTube, I'll end up with about 4,000 or 5,000 views on a video for most of my videos within the first 3 or 4 days. On Odysee, that's down to something like 50 to 100. So it's small percentages, but it is the best of the three options I looked at, so there's something there. I also get viewer comments fairly frequently on Odysee, so it seems to be some level of engagement there. Now, the part that Odysee needs to fix, and where they're not a competitor at all right now, even if their viewership numbers came up, was that the monetization is weird. They've chosen to go with a cryptocurrency-based monetization policy, and the SEC saw that and shut them down on the crypto. So really right now, the only way you can monetize is through tips on the channel. They have a way that viewers can directly tip the content creators with US currency. So they have that, and actually their processing fees compared to YouTube are far, far better. So YouTube, I think, takes about 30% of any kind of a tip that a person would leave to a creator, whereas on Odysee, I think it's well below 10%. So it's a better option there, but their overall monetization is not great. They give you library credits, and they are basically worth 3 cents a piece or something like that. And you can't even cash them out under the current market. So they would have some work to do on fixing their monetization, but overall, a really good looking and really friendly to long content kind of format. And once again, they have made kind of a commitment to freedom of speech, which is a core value for me. So they've done that. So overall, I'd give Odysee kind of a really high mark, like a B+ or something like that, on their overall format and usability and discovery, but the monetization end, it's really poor. Next up is Rumble, and if I've characterized Odysee as a little bit on the geeky side, I'm going to put Rumble over on the right-wing kind of side. They're politically conservative, and those kinds of content seem to dominate. That being said, there are some good creators coming over. Russell Brand I saw on there, who's definitely not right-wing. So maybe it's more appropriate libertarian or freedom of speech format, but it is true that every time I go on their app, that when I'm swiping left and swiping right to discover content, it's kind of a weird format. They will not stop showing me Steve Bannon's War Room, no matter how hard I try. So it does tend to be a little bit more politically conservative. That said, I'm not political at all. I don't care where my videos show up in front of. If it is true that YouTube has alienated a portion of their right-wing viewer base, their conservative viewer base, and that they're trying to find an alternate platform, I don't mind if conservatives or liberals see my videos, because my videos are not political at all. They're more gardening-based content. Now, about their commitment to long-form format, that weird kind of search and discovery on their app seems to get you to watch the first 10 seconds of a video and then decide whether you like it or not. That is, I think, inevitable that that's going to cause those videos that are short-form, quick, eye-catching, action content right from the beginning, pet videos, viral videos, that kind of format is definitely at a high advantage. Whereas longer form content like mine, I don't get anything out in 10 seconds. I get, hi, this is Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. What I'm going to talk about today is, and then, so that's where I have a problem with their format. I looked at their viewership or their views and monetization for me, and the problem is that even compared to Odysee, which is a small format, Rumble was about half the amount of views. I started them up about the same time, transferred my content over. Incidentally, I should say that there is a way to transfer your YouTube content over to both Odysee and Rumble very, very easily in an automated way. You own the content. YouTube doesn't, so there's no real risk there. It's just a matter of there's an easy way to put your content on there, and then you don't have to do anything about it, and it will automatically bring over your new content whenever you post something. So that's kind of a good feature of both formats, and it doesn't cost you anything to do that. So if you want to try it out, that's great, but the viewership on Rumble is about half the size of what I get on Odysee, and in terms of monetization, it's nearly non-existent. They show you your stats for Rumbles, which is that swipe left, swipe right kind of discovery thing. Then they show you something for views, and then they show you something for plays, and they only monetize on the plays. I have no idea how those three numbers line up. I'm sure they do on that content, but basically my monetization, or my earnings on that format over the first 2 months I tried it, was 1 penny. 1 penny. So it's not great. What they do have going for their advantage is that they have a good amount of corporate backing. They recently got bought out by a corporate hedge fund, or an investment bank or something like that. So they have lots of money behind them, and they also bought another site called Locals, which is like the equivalent of Patreon. So they have kind of an interesting path towards monetization. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. One thing I will say is that their overall viewership, as I say, was low. Even their view time is low. If you look on the stats for websites, you're going to see that the view time on Odysee is up there in the 5 or 6 minute range, I think. I'll put that up on the screen. But the view time on Rumble per viewer, every time somebody clicks in, is like 2 minutes. So there's a big difference in how long people are spending on the sites, and that gives me a little kind of a red flag about the Rumble as a viable platform in the future. If they can fix that monetization, they can actually integrate more with their Locals platform and end up being a good place for monetization, they might have some viability, but currently it's a little too small. I am not going to spend a lot of time talking about Dailymotion. I tried it out, I gave it a test. First of all, there is no easy way to move your content over, so you have to manually upload each one. Second of all, it seems to be more geared, it's owned by a cable company called Vivendi, and it seems to be more geared towards establishment type content, big media news sources, sports, entertainment. So that's what it surfaces at the very top of all of its views, is those really establishment publishers, magazines, and other network producers. So they don't really give any attention to guys like me. I put 3 test videos on there, and I got 0 views, and even the bad news going on even further than that is that when I searched specifically for my videos on their platform, I couldn't find them. So they're really not geared for small creators, at least in my opinion. They do seem to have the monetization thing down a little bit. I hear that they can have a high CPM, or earnings per view, or something like that, but if you don't get the views, you won't have the earnings. So as far as I go, Dailymotion is a big flunk out for this. Got 0 traction there over the time that I tried it. All right, that's it. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the options compared to YouTube. As I say, YouTube is the only game in town right now. Some high 90% or mid 90% of all the views of long form videos take place on YouTube. So that's pretty daunting, but the good news is that, at least so far as Odysee and Rumble go, if you wanted to move your platform or move your videos over there and give a try on their platforms, get some different eyeballs on it, you can do that easily. You can do that for free. And there is some potential within those platforms. If they made some of the small changes that I'm talking about here on Odysee, fixing the monetization, on Rumble, giving a little more, getting more viewers first of all, but also giving more emphasis to long form content instead of having that front end that really promotes the short form content and trying to get longer view time on your content. Those would be the changes I would be looking for to decide which one of these is going to be my preferred alternative to YouTube. But honestly, it costs me nothing to have my videos hosted there. I'm getting more eyeballs on it. So for me, that's a win anyway. And I would love to see some legitimate competition within the space. I think it is dire for us as a civilization to have all of, or substantially all of, the long form informational video content hosted by one company that can decide what to do with it.